What is up, everybody? Lawler here, your inside source for all things Rocket League. As you can tell by the title of this video being how much do Rocket League pros make, this is probably one of the most requested questions I get that has been consistent over time. I'm not talking just like people in my stream all day. By the way, link in the description down below, twitch.tv/Lawler. Come hang out with us. Not saying like every single day people just bombard me with this question, but it is something that I've been asked throughout my entire career through streaming on Twitch and otherwise about how much do pros actually make. This question has had answers change a lot over the years due to circumstances. So in this video, we're going to be breaking down the history of how it has gotten to where it is now, ways that some of these pros make their money, as well as things that other people do, as well as things that they should be doing. And then as well, breaking it down into like categories. I'm not going to be breaking it down like this is this team, this is how much they all make, this is each player's salary, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to be doing it that way. I'm going to be taking it by category and kind of explaining, okay, here's a category. This is kind of the base area. This is what you can expect. And then it kind of works up from there. So sit back and relax. This one's going to be a little bit different from what you guys are used to. So as I mentioned in the intro, if you're coming to this video to find out how much your favorite professional player makes, this is not that video, and I do apologize, but it is going to still be more of a broad spectrum, and we're going to break it down into a couple different parts. First part is going to be history, talking about how we've gotten to where we are. The second part is going to be the various ways that you can obtain money or utilize your platform to make that money. And then the third part is actually breaking it down specifically, like you just got into the pro level play, this is what you do. And this is kind of the expectations that are being set. At the very end, though, and you'll want to stick around until the very end, I will be talking more so on the content creation side of things and kind of the top tier and what to expect, some numbers that may surprise you. So first things up, the history. For those that don't know, Rocket League and other esports will usually see gradual increase when it comes to player salaries, as well as how much money the people can make. And this varies from esports to esports. Some esports, like League of Legends and stuff, people are making like over 6 figures. Some are in the millions. It varies a lot based upon how many eyes are on it. At the end of the day, it is a business, and you have to advertise or have sponsors to bring in and basically justify how much money is being made and how much you are paying your players. If you have professional players and every time they go live, in the sense of on a RLCS broadcast, for example, and you're pulling 80,000 as compared to 10,000, of course, the salaries are going to be worth more because that's a lot of advertisement to those spots in the RLCS or what have you. Obviously, League of Legends is up there, Counter-Strike is up there, and it varies quite a bit. And with the whole COVID situation, it has changed a little bit as well. And you're starting to see teams drop out. But I can tell you right now that a lot of the salaries where they are now are actually due to what happened with Energy and Cloud9 way back. A long time ago, Energy was thinking about switching organizations and Cloud9 was entering into the scene. And basically, Energy and Cloud9 had a bid war. And the players just kind of sat back and were chilling and were like, well, we'll see who wants us more. And there was a bid war. Because of that, the salaries got inflated very heavily. Even though right now, if you are into Rocket League, you're not really, as an organization, making much of that money back. You are basically paying an opportunity cost to hopefully get in as an early adopter, and hopefully that kicks back to you more so. If you guys haven't seen, I've talked videos about how this applies, how organizations make money, the point of franchising versus doing a circuit-based system and all that kind of stuff. I have a video to that in my description down below. It might be showcased up here possibly. But go check that out if you want a detailed. It's like a 20-minute video that breaks all that specific stuff down about the legal jargon and all the like different formats and stuff and how it can benefit. So that one's a little bit different. But because of this bid war, a lot of the salaries have been inflated, even though organizations and stuff aren't really making that money back and they aren't really neutral. Organizations are basically coming in with the mentality of, we're going to allocate money from our company or our organization, and we're going to allocate that to Rocket League because we think Rocket League is awesome. I think there's a lot of potential there. Maybe it'll pay off later, maybe it'll not, but we're willing to take that hit initially because we think the potential will far outweigh it if we stay in it and build a foundation and a community right now. With that said, what are the various ways that these pros can earn money? Some of them are going to be obvious, some may lesser, but for the most part, we know how these are. Obviously, the number one thing is a salary from an organization. If you're a professional player and you are one of the best at what you do in the world, then organizations want you to represent them and they will pay you a monthly salary to represent them. Contracts can vary anywhere from 3 months, 6 months, as long or as short as you want. It all depends on what the situation is. And there's different, I guess, stipulations in those contracts based upon requirements and what they may do. If they have to stream X amount of time or if it's incentive based to where like based upon how you perform, you get a bonus, things like that. Second thing, which is pretty obvious, is if you're performing well, you're probably winning events. So prize pools. Prize pools can range anywhere from one-off tournaments like my own, like the Brawl that we ran, which was a $10,000 tournament in partnership with ESPN, stuff like WSOE or anything else, as well as the RLCS. RLCS X season this year is $4.5 million spread across to everybody. Obviously, that is not all in one event, but for example, one of the regional events, there's 3 per split, and there's 3 splits, 9 total. Those are each $100,000 or $900,000 total, where the first place winner, it's $30K that they're splitting between them and their teammates. There's also potential for the organization to take a cut of that. That all varies based upon how they want to approach it and what the contract dictates. The next thing, and probably the biggest one, is going to be content creation. Whether you are a streamer on Twitch, if you do YouTube content or stream on YouTube, if you are making TikToks, Instagram, any of that kind of stuff, things like that can be monetized, and you have capabilities to take care of that platform by carrying it over. Case in point, I make YouTube videos. Some of you guys come from YouTube and come over to Twitch, and then Twitch goes back and people on Twitch watch my YouTube. Basically all doubles down. So again, things like this, not getting into the specifics, content creation can be a very big one. Another one are separate donations. People sometimes just feel like being generous for no reason, and they'll donate to their favorite streamers or content creators or pros. People will also set up Patreons. Patreons are a way that you set basically thresholds for like a subscription-based service. It's $1, $5, $10, whatever it may be, and you get certain rewards for purchasing that subscription up to a certain amount. Gibbs was notorious for this when I was a caster, where he would do like 1v1 matches, or he would play and queue with some of his Patreons. He would also do stuff like replay analysis, things like that. If you guys want me to do something like that, let me know in the comments down below. Some pros also do coaching on an individual level, where when they have some free time, website that's probably the most popular is Gamers Ready, where you can go and purchase a time slot for a certain period of time, and then you will get one-on-one coaching. A lot of people, from what I've heard, don't even care about the coaching side. They just want to interact with their favorite pros on a one-to-one level, which is kind of cool and kind of a cool concept. So that is something that people do. In-game items as well, and this only applies to certain organizations. Certain orgs obviously have their items in-game, and if you are part of Psyonix's esports program, then there is a percentage of that that does go back to the organizations. I'm not going to break down the specifics of the whole Psyonix esports program, because the things I do know are things that were told to me in confidence, and I can't tell them as fact because I'm not 100% sure on the details. It'd be more so speculation and basically whispers from what I've heard from other places. But for the most part, obviously they do get a kickback for those items, and some of it hopefully then goes towards as well as the prize pool for the RLCS. Another one, and this one's a little bit different, also depends on what kind of organization you're representing, which is sponsorships. If you are assigned a team, most orgs make their money from sponsorships and advertising. That's how they're able to pay their players and keep their roof over their head, or their, you know, whatever facility. Like Team Liquid just built that new Alienware facility. Alienware has a big part in why that facility is a thing, because it's branded all over it, etc. So most advertisements, as I stated earlier, and sponsorship deals are, if you're an organization like G2 and Red Bull is your sponsor, Red Bull will pay you money because every time G2 is on something, they've got a Red Bull logo somewhere on their sleeve or whatever it may be, which then advertises to the demographic and blah, blah, blah. Go check out the video I mentioned about how this all works out. Sometimes, though, not all pro players are sponsored by an organization, but would like to remain as a free agent or freelance, kind of like myself, where based upon your influence, as much as I hate the word influencer, people who do something that a lot of people watch have the ability to basically get paid to say, hey, take a look at this product. If you like said product, you should consider buying it. They can get kickbacks. There can be a monthly pay. There's a lot of different ways that you can handle sponsorships, but some teams or players on an individual level may not be in that field, so they have capabilities of not being locked down by the sponsors just from the organization. There's some different options to that. Usually the case is, if you are a pro player and you have an organization backing you, those sponsors, sometimes they will give you like an appearance fee to do like a photo shoot or something like that as an addition. Depends on how the contract is laid out. Or they will compensate you with product. I'm pretty sure like all the G2 people just got sent like a bunch of new monitors and stuff. Kind of the way that it goes. Because they know if you're a pro player and you're playing on their monitors, and people are like, yo, what monitor do you use? What kind of this? I want to be you. They go, oh, I use this monitor by X brand that is sponsoring me. And then it kicks back, and then hopefully you buy that monitor. Last but not least, and this is more of if you have a better personal brand and you have taken the time to do the content creation and be more outward facing, doing interviews, and you build your own fan base. Merch is another one, selling your own merch. And please, nobody in the comments harass me for this. I've been trying to make my own for a really long time. Hopefully that's coming soon, but merch is another way. It's something that you can then fund yourself, depending on how nice the merch is or how dedicated of a fan base you have. Obviously, that's varying. Not something that everybody can rely on. Now, to get to the part of the video that you guys are all wondering about. How much do these players actually make when it comes to salary? How much are they being compensated by organizations? But before we get into that, to kind of give you guys a heads up, right now, esports is projected to make $1.1 billion in 2020, which is roughly a 15.7% increase from last year based upon the numbers and the websites I was looking at. That is a lot of money. It can be a very profitable business if it is handled correctly. Because it is entertainment and the most consumed entertainment on the planet at the moment, more than football or American football or whatever you consume, esports is crushing it. We continue to persist despite the pandemic and are finding ways around it, which is very commendable. Now, just like the National Football League and others, it is an entertainment. You are being entertained, and because people are consuming the content, salaries can get very high. Just like you are the 0.001% in your profession, you are the best at what you do, you are going to be compensated accordingly. These things are even more so inflated because it is the entertainment industry. These numbers are crazy, and until I started getting into the industry myself, it was pretty baffling to see how much this actually happens and why it happens, and why does NFL player make millions upon millions of dollars every single year. It's because a lot of people watch the content. A lot of people watch the content. It's crazy how much people consume stuff like football and everything else, especially now so with esports because nobody's leaving their house. Now, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to start at the very bottom and work our way up, and the salaries are going to increase as we get there. So first things first, at the very bottom is going to be your bubble teams that don't really earn a pay. These are your people that understand, yes, they are good enough, but right now they are basically fighting to either A, have their makeup team progress forward. This could be similar to like Alpine, now or previously Affinity, now Alpine. This was a team that didn't have an organization, but they had a lot of talent. Were trying to battle up until they got picked up by another team, but they weren't being paid. Another version of this is kind of like the Peeps. The Peeps is a very talented team, a lot of skill, and even though they've had organizations in the past, they are right now leaving their options open, and hopefully their performance will speak for itself with being a top 8 team in RLCS, and then a organization will sign them, and then they will get that bread. But as a bubble team, if you have no pay, you're basically an aspiring pro. Pro is kind of a weird word. True definition of a professional is anybody who has made money doing something like this. So if you have made money in a $25 tournament, technically you're a pro by the technical definition, and that's the best kind of right, is being technically right. So bubble teams, no pay, they are basically kind of at the bottom. They are still trying to get their name out there. There's a potential that maybe one of those players is a standout performance and they get picked up. Think Justin out of style from back in the day, going to NRG, things like that. Next category up is you're still kind of a bubble team, but you're having a little bit better of a performance. And because it is low cost, there is some like C tier or B tier orgs that come to mind that will pick up these teams for a very minimal salary, if a salary at all, but also have sponsors and a little bit of name to them. They're basically paying for the exposure of it all. They're willing to pay you a couple $100. This case usually ranges about $200 a month. Controllers, a jersey, gaming chairs, really low cost stuff with their sponsors that they can ship to you at cost for manufacture cost. But they're basically hoping that you perform and are consistently in the RLCS or whatever it may be. So people start following their organization, and then it gets to the point where most likely they're going to get bought out by a bigger name, kind of like Gale Force, Northern Gaming back in the day, things like that. We then take a step above that, and these are your teams that are like the top 17 to 32 teams in the region. This can vary quite a bit. Sometimes these teams do break into the top 16 and kind of make that final bracket. But these are teams that are most likely going to always be on the broadcast. This is your B tier, kind of right below being like, okay, these are the teams that get invited to tournaments all the time. They're just shy of that. So this is like your top 17, top 32. These can go anywhere from like that 200, but they start to get into the higher amounts, almost to about $1,000. I would say on average about 500 to 1,000. This varies heavily upon the organization and what their backing and sponsorship funding is, and what their advertisement funding is coming from. But these are teams that you should be like, oh yeah, I know this team, but they're not quite there yet. You know, they're still doing good. They still kind of play upset. These are the teams I refer to as like your gatekeeper teams. They're not quite going to be the teams that you see on an everyday basis in the high profile matches. but they may play upset and they may beat one of these teams or take a couple games off the top dogs. In the tier above that is these are teams that are almost always guaranteed to be in the top 16. These are your teams that are in the grid. These are your teams that are pretty much going to be known performers. They are, without a doubt, teams that you need to consider. This is where the fruit of the talent is going to be. If you have teams, this is kind of the first look of like, okay, we need a new player for our team if we're changing our roster. These are the teams that they're picking from, unless they can get it from other top tier talent. We create that domino effect of our favorite roster changes. These start usually around like 2,500 a month. It's not a little about, but again, this is going to be something with a little bit more of a recognized sponsor, more than just your standard like weird energy drink brands or something like that. Like these have some recognizable people. It sounds degrading when I say it, but B tier is obviously someone that's respectable. They have a decent following on Twitter. It's not massive, but it's still like, okay, I recognize them. This is the team that you kind of pick up because you hope the potential is there and you can get them for a cheaper cost. And you hope that you kind of find a diamond in the rough. Without doing specifics, I think examples of these teams are like Kansas City Pioneers, PK, stuff like that, where they've got, 20, 30, 40,000 followers on Twitter. They're not quite your top tiers like your NRGs or anything like that, but they're still hoping that they can find a team that has potential and then breaks through. But if that team starts getting consistently to that top exposure spot, that's when contract negotiations of higher pay, etc. They're basically trying to get invested in cheap and hope it pays off in the long run. Next up is your top 8. These are the teams that were in the RLCS before we went to the circuit-based system. Base salary here, again, varies on the team and how much value you think these players bring. This is also where you start to see more so if a player has a specific following or they do a little bit more streaming or have some, you're going to see varying salaries. For the most part, salaries are all pretty in line with all the players, but sometimes there is a certain player that is really good on content creation and has a bigger YouTube or streams on Twitch regularly, and this player may have a little bit higher salary, so that's what it varies. But if you're a top 8 team, your base salary is probably about $4,000. That's pretty much where you're looking. $4,000 to $5,000 is kind of the base. That's your typical starting rate. That's kind of what most people assume. Again, I personally think a lot of these salaries are still inflated because of the history in the bid war. But at the same time, for these pros, like, power to you, man. Earn that money. You work hard. You are one of the best in the world at what you do. At this circumstance, technically, you're the 24th or in the top 24 best player in your respective region. You should be compensated for it. So $4,000 to $5,000 typical starting rate. Some require minimal stream hours per month for a bonus or other incentives. Like if you get top 8 in this regional, will give you a little bit of a bump, and that's how you can make up different costs. But this is pretty much where you're looking at in that category. We then take a pretty big jump up to the top 4, the big dogs, the ones that always make it to the grand finals or the semifinals. You know who I'm talking about. These are the guys that, and this varies a lot. I will say this chunk can totally change depending on what the circumstances, who the players are, what they're doing, performance. Like there's a lot of different factors that go into this one. This one can range from what I've heard and what it's been over the years, anywhere from $6,000 to like $9,000 a month. That varies based upon the organization, who their sponsors are, how well they're performing, how long they've been tenured, if they've been with the organization for X amount of time, but they're continuously performing well. That's where this one is going to vary. It's going to change up quite a bit based upon how well they perform, how long they've been there, and a lot of the other factors. These are the most well-known orgs in the scene. These are the guys that have been around for a very long time, that have really good funding. Their sponsors are legitimate, that have been around. Not saying that other sponsors aren't, but these are well-known brands that are backing these teams. Computer sponsorships, peripherals, major brands like BMW and Red Bull, talking about like G2 and stuff, obviously. But again, these are the types of organizations that you know well. You have their jerseys in your closet. These are the big dogs. These are the guys that are spending a ton of money to make sure their team gets W's. That is the whole purpose of this. So that is going to vary based upon, again, how popular the player is, if they have their own personal branding. And that's something that if there is pros watching this, if you want to get a better salary, if you come in with a big social following and it's an org sign up, those organizations are going to pay you more money. That is something that you should be leveraging if you don't have an agency to do it for you. But if you come in with 20, 30, 40,000 followers on Twitter or Twitch or whatever it may be, and you say, yeah, I stream regularly, I pull this concurrent viewership, they're going to pay you more. You have more value because that is a better way for them to get their branding and their organization out to the public so those people can support them. And again, it is a business. Keep this stuff in mind. Now, the last tier or the last category is a unique one, and this necessarily isn't about being a pro or otherwise. This is just the opportunity of what it can do. This is going to be me dropping some numbers and talking about, there is a couple key players, and you guys are probably going to know the ones I'm hinting at, and I'm not going to talk specifically, but when content creators hit a certain threshold or are doing very well, this is where it becomes kind of interesting, because there is some pros that teeter on, should I continue to be a pro when as a content creator, I'm making money. I'm making a lot of money. The cool thing about being a pro is obviously that level of exposure and that many people and that many eyes on you every single weekend when you play, and that notoriety that comes with it allows you to go and make YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff. And those videos pop off and you keep double downing. And eventually you get to the point where you have a pretty big fan base and you realize that you're making more than your salary as a pro. And you got to decide, is the opportunity cost worth it for me to stop being a pro and lose that base exposure and go full-time content creation, see where this takes me and build my own personal following as compared to being a professional of said game. I'm not going to say specifics. I'm not going to talk about anything, but I can tell you right now, if you are doing well, there is some content creators in Rocket League who are making $2, $5, $10, $35, $100,000 a month. Not necessarily saying that as pros or otherwise, but based upon the numbers that I have looked at, based upon my own experience with YouTube, I can tell you right now, there are some content creators, some pros, etc., that are easily making triple, or if not quadruple, if not even more than that, of their player's salary as a content creator. The benefit of a oversaturated market, the benefit of a platform that is extremely discoverable, is if you are doing well, you are doing really, really well. And that is why, I guess, at the end of this video, to kind of wrap it up, I urge you, if you have the opportunity to make yourself well known, take the chances for doing your interviews, grind the content, make your TikToks, do whatever you can on the social side. It's a lot of work and it will burn you out. But if you work hard now when you are young, it will definitely pay off for you long term. And the ones that have been doing this, I commend you. It is something I've been saying for years. I got a lot of flack for it a long time ago. But the ones that have been doing it are definitely seeing the benefits. And we are starting to see some of those really take into that. And I'm really proud of them because it is a lot of work. It is exhausting. I say that firsthand experience between streaming, casting, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. It is a lot of work, but in the end, it may benefit you. And at the same time, you may have fun doing it. So with that said, this is how much pro players make in Rocket League. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content, a little bit different and a little bit more long form on this one. But that is going to wrap it up for me. If you guys do have any questions, comments, concerns, if you like this kind of content, if you like this kind of insight, let me know in the comments down below. Maybe we'll do a follow video. If this video gets 1,000 likes, if we do 1,000 likes, maybe I will do a specific follow-up video for this video alone. And if you guys have made it this far, I greatly appreciate you taking the time to watch the content. But that is going to wrap it up for me. Hit me up on all the social medias, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. Comments down below, and we will catch you guys next time. Peace.